Everywhere you look, from films to family conversations, the message is the same. Happiness is found in togetherness. You're supposed to grow up, find a partner, and build a life entwined with someone else. That's the roadmap. That's what success supposedly looks like. But not everyone follows that path. And not every man who lives alone is doing so out of heartbreak, loss, or misfortune. Some men live alone by choice, not out of resentment, but from a deep inner calling for freedom, clarity, and personal evolution. This isn't the story of a man who gave up. It's the story of a man who decided he didn't need to be rescued from himself. While the world talks loudly about romance and partnership, this man finds peace in quiet. He isn't running from something. He's walking toward something powerful. What if solitude isn't loneliness? What if it's a form of strength that most never develop? Today, we're exploring the rarely discussed truth about men who choose to walk this solitary path, a path filled with discipline, purpose, and deeper meaning. The world may not always understand them, but once you do, you'll never see solitude the same way again. When you live alone, there is no backup, no emotional safety net. No one is there to remind you to pay the electric bill or cook dinner when you're too tired. There's no one to share the chores, listen to your frustrations after a long day, or reassure you when life feels heavy. And yet, that's where the power begins. This man learns quickly that no one is coming to do the work for him. If he wants food, he cooks. If he wants peace, he cleans. If he wants clarity, he gets still. The responsibilities can be overwhelming at first, but as he begins to master them, a deep and lasting independence emerges. He learns to rely on himself not out of pride, but out of necessity. And that necessity transforms into confidence. He no longer feels helpless in the face of adversity. Instead, he becomes solution-oriented, practical, and aware of his own resilience. He's not just surviving, he's learning to thrive, because he has to. That's the foundation of self-sufficiency, not just being alone, but rising to meet every challenge on your own terms. For most, being alone feels uncomfortable. They fill the silence with distractions, TV, social media, noise. But for this man, solitude becomes something sacred. He doesn't fear the quiet. He steps into it. It is in the silence where he finally hears his own thoughts. There, he reflects on his goals, examines his habits, and faces his fears without the distortion of outside opinions. He doesn't seek meaningless small talk to fill the time. He seeks alignment with his values. The quiet becomes a place of healing, of growing, of sharpening the mind. In a world addicted to validation and applause, this man finds clarity in the stillness. His solitude becomes a sanctuary, a training ground for deep thought, deliberate living, and personal peace. He's not avoiding the world. He's refining himself in private so that he can show up stronger in public. When you live with someone, emotional support can become a cushion. But when you live alone, there is no one to bounce your anger off of, no one to comfort you during a breakdown, and no one to celebrate your wins on a whim. This solitude forces emotional maturity, not because the man doesn't feel things deeply, but because he learns how to hold space for those feelings himself. He begins to understand the rhythm of his own emotions, the triggers, the patterns, the lessons. Without someone else there to stabilize him, he becomes the anchor. He doesn't react impulsively. He responds thoughtfully. He doesn't spiral in frustration. He breathes through it. This kind of emotional mastery doesn't come easily, but once developed, it becomes unshakable. He becomes a man who moves through storms without being tossed by every wave. So many people live in invisible cages, jobs they hate, relationships they resent, debts that drain them. They're bound by obligation, by fear, by the desire to be accepted. But the man who lives alone, he experiences a rare kind of freedom. He's not financially tied to anyone. He's not emotionally manipulated. He doesn't have to perform to maintain peace in a household. He doesn't have to compromise his vision for life to make someone else comfortable. He can make bold moves, start a new business, travel, take risks, without needing permission or negotiation. And that kind of freedom is powerful, because it's not just about living without restraints. It's about living in alignment with your truest self. When a man is alone, he doesn't wake up every day trying to impress someone. He wakes up chasing purpose. He isn't consumed by fleeting pleasures or shallow approval. He has time to focus on what matters to him, his mission, his growth, his contributions. Without the distractions of constant companionship, he has space to ask himself hard questions. What am I here to do? What legacy do I want to leave? This sense of purpose becomes his compass. He doesn't wait for validation to move forward. He doesn't look to others to tell him what matters. He sets his own standards, and he lives by them. That clarity and drive don't just happen. They're born in solitude, where the noise of the world fades and only the truth remains. Ironically, the more a man embraces solitude, the stronger his relationships become. Because when he does connect with others, it's not out of desperation, it's out of choice. He doesn't surround himself with people just to feel less alone. He doesn't entertain shallow conversations to avoid silence. He chooses quality over quantity, and that makes his presence more powerful. He brings depth. He listens fully. He communicates with clarity. His friendships, his bonds, his partnerships, they're based on shared values and mutual respect, not neediness or fear. This man doesn't chase company. He attracts it, because people are drawn to those who are whole on their own. There's a certain kind of peace that only comes from mastering solitude. A man who lives alone learns that happiness doesn't come from external circumstances. It comes from within. He doesn't panic when things fall apart. He doesn't crumble under pressure. He has already been through the fire of facing himself, and he emerged stronger. He knows who he is. He knows what he stands for. And because of that, no one can shake him. He has walked through silence. He has survived emotional storms. And now he carries with him an unbreakable calm. So, what does it truly mean to live alone? It doesn't mean you're lonely. It means you've learned to enjoy your own company. It doesn't mean you've failed. It means you've stepped off the path society laid out and created your own. The man who walks alone is not weak. He is free. He is focused. He is powerful. He doesn't need others to remind him of his worth. He knows it. He doesn't fear solitude. He thrives in it. He welcomes others into his life, not to fill a void, but to share the abundance he's cultivated on his own. In a world where everyone is trying to be seen, he has chosen to see himself. And that's what makes him unstoppable.